Hello and welcome back to the Ultimate Fighting Casuals. Today we're talking about a bit of a different subject, sort of the animosity and the question marks around sort of some of the decisions recently with not just the referee inside of it, but also just sort of, I don't really know what even to say it. Is it the injury towards the fighter? Is it the competition? Is it the integrity? I think it's just a big question mark right now around injuries that happen to fighters during fights or situations in fights where we as the audience really don't know what's going on, and the fighters seem to not know just as much.
Absolutely. There seems to be massive inconsistency from the referees and the athletic commissions, which can make it really difficult from the fighter's point of view. So I really do feel for them. The instance we're talking about in this section are the knees primarily. So it was Sterling.
Sterling's knee, him actually receiving the knee. Obviously talking about the victim side of this, again, this is the point, however you spin this. Sterling obviously received a knee from Yan during last week's title fight, the week before his title fight, and then Darren Stewart, who was on the back end of a knee from the fight from the weekend just gone. Right? And I think the problem lies in that one of them was decided as a win and one of them was decided as a no contest. Now, I feel like we need to see why. We need an actual black and white definition on a piece of paper as to why this is, because it's causing a lot of confusion between the fighters, because in different states there are different laws. For example, Nevada has different laws from Florida. This is something I've learned from like Rogan talking about it, especially with the hands on the floor. You know when we were saying that? Well, when you go back and watch the Sterling one, he doesn't have either of his hands on the floor.
No, it's the knee.
It's the knee. Exactly, it's the knee. So this is where I sort of asked the question: is it one knee on the floor? Is it two? What can you shed light on, Muzz?
I mean, it's one knee. So he was pronounced as a ground opponent in that by the referee before the strike was thrown, and Sterling even said that's why he really didn't expect the strike to be thrown. In the Darren Stewart incidents, and I think the massive disparity in the decision, obviously, Peter Yan was DQ'd and lost his belt, and Sterling Sterling got the belt, gets to walk away with it. And in the Darren Stewart instance, it was a no contest. And obviously, it's a massive fight with the belt on the line,
of course,
right? So we need to look at why the decision was made for Yan.
And why was it not? And why was it not made for the other way? Because equally, yes, I completely agree with you. It was a big decision being a belt. Completely fine. However, I feel like we still have to be more subjective, more look at the fight itself. The other guy, it could be massive in any of his own respects, regardless of if he's going up, if he's coming down, in the UFC, out the UFC, money, life. It's a massive deal to disqualify a fight, as we saw in the Edwards one. It means a lot towards 100%. The division and all that sort of stuff.
I mean, look at guys like Hamzat Chimaev. You can go from relatively unknown to absolute superstardom in the UFC. So it's no sort of lack of comment to say that one fight can be the absolute making or breaking of you. So
we've mentioned it a few times. I watch a lot of Joe Rogan. I'm sure you do too. Massive part of the UFC. His opinion is quite important, and I feel like it means quite a lot. For him to bring up something that I found really important, actually, that when a fighter is on the floor, they can kick upwards at you, but you can't kick downwards at them. Now, he was talking about it more just like, how is that fair? How can one do the other? I know there's a lot more to it, and I'm not pretending like I know everything, because I don't. But I just see that as a interpretation of the rule by the referee that can be different. Do you know what I mean? I can see how a referee can see that swing either way, and I think that's a massive question.
Yeah, and I think it's those question marks that are in the sport. MMA is still such an early sport. We're only really 30 years in. But it's down then to the referee's interpretation of the intent of the fighters. And I just think this is where it gets really muddy. We've seen things in Nevada be implemented, like instant replays and the referee being able to take time in the fight and be able to look at what happened in slow motion rather than, judging it on real time, which I think does help, but it's not perfect. And I think where MMA is so early on in its kind of sporting life, we will see it change and we will see it develop. I don't think we need to suggest any drastic changes at this point.
I agree. I think the slow motion thing is a good implement. But this is also the thing, was I can completely agree with you, and I can see how you can look at that and think, okay, this is a way to solve it, right? But coming from football, when you add in slow motion, when you add in stuff like that, that actually impacts the referee's interpretation of the intent. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That then changes it another way, because things look not only worse in slow motion, they look more damaging. I can't imagine a fight how much that would add. So it gets to a point where you constantly add to try and make the referee understand better. But I ultimately feel like it's the rule that needs to be redefined and rule that needs to be agreed across state commissions, across athletic commissions. I know they have that in the US. I know it works differently compared to here, right? So I think that it would be fair to say if we get a clean slate across the board, black and white for the fighters, so everyone knows what the rules are and everywhere is the same, it would be so much better.
I agree. I think that consistency and taking it out of the referee's opinion it just makes it so much less murky, and it's going to make the sport a lot better. So looking at the fights that happened this weekend, obviously Leon Edwards, Belal Muhammad ended in absolute heartbreak, but I want to touch on what was going actually really right for Leon Edwards up until that point. He was just starting to get going, landed a really nice head kick and hurt Belal early, and was really starting to take over the fight. I mean, what were you seeing there?
I think that Edwards definitely had the first round. That's for certain. I think that if he said he doesn't believe in ring rust, regardless of his opinion. I completely respect it, but I don't believe it. I think you always will have ring rust. I'm a massive believer in ring rust. I think there's no way you can be out of an octagon for 2 years and not know what it's like to be in there and be hit in that way. You don't get hit like that in sparring, right? No. And I think that Belal Muhammad is also a fighter that builds into fights. Absolutely. That isn't something that we can just forget about. Like, it's not that Edwards was completely taken over and was going to just ruin the fight, run him over. Yeah, exactly. I think Edwards was going to build into it even more, but he just showed he was a better fighter from the outset. Like, if you go from the beginning and from that point, he showed he was a better fighter. He landed a lot more, and again, like you said, it just ended in such heartbreak. I feel like Edwards really had more to show. Like, that's what he said after the fight, wasn't it, mate? And that's heartbreaking, mate.
Absolutely. Just speaking directly after the fight, he said that is worse than the loss for me. And I think that shows his sportsmanship and his character.
And his spirit, absolutely. Yeah.
Because he wants to go out there and prove that he is the better fighter and the better man on the night. The last thing he wants is any question marks around that. Yep. He's been out for so long, and Belal Muhammad, let's be honest, he isn't at the level of Leon Edwards. He wants to come in, make quick work, and either go on to somebody like Colby Covington or actually just go and fight for the belt. Yeah. I really feel for him.
Me too, mate. I'm a massive fan of Edwards now, and I've learned a lot more about him the last few months making these videos. And for example, like, his dad died when he was 14, right? So his dad was shot and killed when he was 14 years old.
And the way he found out about it as well.
I don't know. Okay, yeah. Go on, so tell me.
Okay, yeah, there was an interview that came out with BT Sport. Basically, he overheard the phone call to his mum because they were in. His dad was in London. They were in Birmingham. He was trying to graft and make money or do whatever he was doing. His mum got a call to say that he'd been shot and killed, and he overheard it. Just didn't say anything. Like, bottled it up and like. That, I don't know, I think that creates something in you.
It does. And when you become a fighter, I feel like it means that much more.
Absolutely.
What I'm really getting at from this is Edwards has been out for 2 years. He's wanted to get in there for the last 14 months. 100%. Right? He's been begging for it, gagging for it. He took the fight. He didn't even have to fight that Muhammad, but he wanted to be in there so much. He didn't want to take off any card. It wasn't it's all out of his control.
Wonder Boy was on the cards for the summer if he wanted it.
Exactly, mate. And this is all this stuff. You cannot blame the fighter. That's what I want to get out from here. But if we're being honest, if we're talking about the situation from the night, it was avoidable. I feel like that's something. It's an avoidable problem. It's something that shouldn't be. Whether you look at that as avoidable in the context of the fight or the context of the UFC, I feel like this whole problem needs to be sorted, mate.
I agree. And we look at it. There are other solutions out there in terms of gloves and things like that. We look at Trevor Whitman as a massive thing. So Gaith G, Trevor Whitman on the Joe Rogan podcast went through it in really great detail. I think there's a 15-minute clip of that.
Yeah,
so if you actually want to go and see the gloves and how they work from a top of the top fighter's perspective, it's a really good insight.
Completely agree, mate. Yeah, and I think we might see them get implemented into UFC. I feel like look. I know it's fighting, so I get this. It's all like brawl and it's hard and people get hurt, right? We see legs broken, arms broken, but eyes, brain, head, it's different, right? Look at Stipe. Look, that's the reason I think Ngannou's going to beat him. We won't get into it. That's the reason. He's 38, long-lasting damage. He's too old. Look at Bisping. It's life-threatening stuff. It's real. This needs to be addressed. I feel like it's a bigger issue. And ultimately, I want to see the UFC move towards Trevor Whitman gloves, mate.
I absolutely agree. Dana White says it himself when he talks about the UFC being an opportunity, not a career. So an opportunity shouldn't really rob you of your vision or your cognitive ability.
Absolutely.
These guys are in there to make money and provide for their families, a lot of them. We talk about the McGregors on the top of the top, but ultimately the sport could be a lot safer for the guys that are in there just earning 50k every 6 months trying to keep their family afloat. Absolutely,
mate. And just more importantly on that fact, you've literally pinged something in my head. Bisping, when he had that one eye, all that, we all talk about it, amazing, incredible, wow. He was at a title level. Look where Muhammad is. Yeah. Look at where he is. This 100%. Could be his career done. He's in the top 15. That's where he is. He isn't no more than that. No. He's begging for Edwards to fight him again. Of course, 15. Exactly. And of course he wants Edwards to fight again. And that's not even just because of what happened. It's because he knows how much of a big fight that is for him. I feel for that guy because that's massive for him as well. You know, that's why I think the whole situation's sad and unfortunate and heartbroken from everyone. I feel like is a fair way to look at it.
Absolutely, it's a real shame of a main event, and hopefully these guys get to run it back. I do think Leon Edwards ultimately will prove that he's the better fighter, but Belal Muhammad does deserve the opportunity.
Got to run it back. Okay, so we've come to the end of today's video. We thought we'd change it up and do a bit more of a topical sort of video. We want to do that on this channel. Ultimately, we are casuals. If you go back to like our first videos, mate, like right behind us, like we were just joking about. We were sat there. This is what it's meant to be. We love the way we're doing it, but we also want to bring more, right? Like, absolutely. We thought about some live video ideas, 100%. Like doing reactions. We've done it before, cut them in. We've looked at our own videos, right?
Absolutely, and diversify a little bit. Because I think from the casual perspective in dissecting the UFC in a way that's easy to break down and look at, I think there's definitely something for, and obviously like we're doing our best. So give us a little bit direction. What would you like us to see? Where would you like it to sort of go?
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know down below, or you can get over to the Instagram. It's going to be down below, so be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. And I've sort of just said it, but Moz, is there anything you want to add anyway?
Well, follow the Instagram. You know what to do.
Follow the Instagram. It's down below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.